Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that your entire world has changed. Your business is gone. Your friends betray you. Your health begins to decline. The government you trusted falls into corruption. This isn't just the modern world. This is how life has always been. For thousands of years, people have faced uncertainty, loss, and injustice. But while many collapsed under the weight of despair, a few found a way to remain calm, steady, and even happy. That way is Stoicism, a philosophy born more than 2,000 years ago, but one that still feels like it was written for today. We live in an age of smartphones, constant notifications, financial pressure, climate anxiety, and political conflict. Our ancestors didn't have iPhones, but they did face plagues, wars, and betrayals. The emotions were the same. The stress was the same. The fear of the future was the same. And that is why Stoicism remains timeless. It doesn't tell us how to control the world. It tells us how to control ourselves. The story begins around 300 BCE. Zeno of Citium was a wealthy merchant. His life was filled with success, comfort, and ambition. But fate had other plans. One day, his ship, carrying precious cargo, was wrecked in the sea. Everything he owned was lost. Zeno barely survived, washed ashore with nothing but his life. He wandered into Athens, heartbroken and confused. One day he walked into a bookstore and began reading about Socrates, the philosopher who had lived a century earlier. Fascinated, Zeno asked the bookseller where he could meet men like Socrates. The man pointed to a philosopher passing by and said, "Follow him." That moment changed history. Zeno became a student, then a teacher, and finally founded his own school. He taught in a painted porch called the Stoa Poikile. From this porch, his philosophy gained the name Stoicism. What was the first lesson? That fortune can take away wealth, power, even health, but it cannot touch your character, your choices, or your mind. Zeno's shipwreck was not his end. It was his beginning. Zeno taught that life is divided into two categories: what we can control, our thoughts, our actions, our values, our responses to events; what we cannot control, other people's opinions, random accidents, our reputation, the economy, illness, and death. The Stoic secret is this: if you focus only on what you can control, nothing can disturb your peace. This is radical, because most of us live the opposite way. We obsess about how people see us, whether our plans succeed, whether life feels fair. But the Stoics remind us, those things were never in our power. Over the next centuries, Stoicism produced some of the greatest thinkers in history. Epictetus, the slave born into slavery. Epictetus had no freedom, no wealth, and no security. Yet he became one of the wisest men of Rome. He said, "You may chain my body, but my mind remains free." His life proved Stoicism is not about comfort, it's about inner strength. Seneca the statesman, a wealthy Roman senator, forced to live under the cruel Emperor Nero. Seneca had everything money could buy. But he also faced exile, suspicion, and eventually forced to suicide. His letters are filled with wisdom on self-discipline, facing death, and using time wisely. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor, the ruler of the Roman Empire who controlled the largest territory in the world at the time, yet in private, he wrote Meditations, a book never meant for others, but for himself. It is a diary of a man trying to stay humble, patient, and just, even while carrying the burden of the world. From slave to emperor, Stoicism proved universal. Now, let's jump forward to today. Why does Stoicism still work? Because technology changes, but the human heart does not. We still fear the future. We still crave approval. We still suffer loss. We still fight battles only now. They are mental and emotional, rather than on the battlefield. Think about social media. You post a picture, and suddenly your mood depends on how many people like it. That's a perfect example of focusing on what you cannot control. Stoicism teaches: post it if you value it. Ignore the response. Or think about traffic. You get angry at the driver cutting you off. But Stoicism asks, can you control their driving? No. Can you control your reaction? Yes. Then focus on that. This shift in mindset doesn't just reduce stress, it builds resilience. Control your inner dialogue. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Practice voluntary discomfort, Seneca suggested, sometimes sleeping on the floor or eating plain food. To remind yourself that you don't need luxury to survive. When real hardship comes, you'll be ready. Remember mortality. The Stoics practiced memento mori, the remembrance of death, not to depress, but to focus. If life is short, why waste it on anger, greed, or jealousy? Universal brotherhood Stoics believed all humans share reason and dignity. That's why Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, reminded himself daily, "You are a citizen of the world." Stoicism didn't die with Rome. It shaped Christianity, Enlightenment, thought, and even modern psychology. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, one of the most effective treatments for anxiety and depression, directly comes from Stoic principles. Even today, CEOs, athletes, and military leaders use Stoicism. Admiral James Stockdale, a prisoner of war for 7 years in Vietnam, credited Epictetus with keeping him alive through torture. When Ryan Holiday wrote, "The obstacle is the way," millions rediscovered Stoicism as a guide for resilience. So why does Stoicism still work in modern life? Because life is still uncertain. Because we still need courage, calm, and wisdom. And because while the world outside is chaotic, the world inside is still within our power. Zeno's shipwreck was only the beginning. The real journey of Stoicism had just started. The Stoics didn't just talk about philosophy, they lived it. Unlike some schools of thought that stayed in abstract debates, Stoicism was practical, almost like a training program for the mind. Think of it this way. A soldier doesn't wait for war to practice. He trains every day. A Stoic does the same, but the battlefield is life itself, full of insults, temptations, losses, and surprises. The Stoic day usually began and ended with reflection. In the morning, they prepared. What challenges might I face today? How should I respond? In the evening, they reviewed. Where did I fail? Where did I succeed? What can I do better tomorrow? This simple rhythm of preparation and reflection created resilience. Imagine doing this today. Before checking your phone in the morning, you ask, will I face rude people, stressful tasks, unexpected problems? And then you remind yourself, yes, and I will remain calm. Already, your day is different. 1. Premeditatio malorum. The anticipation of troubles. The Stoics often imagined worst-case scenarios. Not to be negative, but to be prepared. Example, you're about to go to work. Instead of assuming it will be perfect, you tell yourself, the train might be late. My boss might be angry. My computer might crash. But none of this is the end of the world. If things go wrong, you're ready. If they go well, you're grateful. 2. Dichotomy of control. Sorting what's ours and what's not, Epictetus said. Some things are up to us, some things are not. When you face a problem, ask 2 questions. Can I control it? If yes, take action. If not, let it go. This single principle can eliminate 90% of daily stress. 3. Voluntary discomfort. Training for hardship. Seneca advised practicing discomfort before life forces it on you. Sleep on the floor for a night. Eat a plain meal instead of a feast. Walk instead of driving. This makes you strong. Because when comfort is taken away, you realize you can survive. 4. View from above. The cosmic perspective. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to look at life from a higher perspective. Imagine zooming out from Earth into space. Suddenly, problems, your deadlines, your arguments, your losses become tiny. This exercise builds humility and peace. 5. Memento mori. Remember, you will die. To modern ears, this sounds dark. The Stoics used it to focus. If you remember that life is short, you stop wasting time on gossip, envy, or pointless pursuits. You start living with urgency, Steve Jobs once said. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. That's pure Stoicism. Stoics are often misunderstood as emotionless. Oh, that's wrong. They didn't reject emotions. They rejected being controlled by emotions. Think of emotions like wild horses. If you let them run free, they throw you into chaos. But if you learn to guide them, they give you strength. For example, anger gives uncontrolled. It destroys relationships. Guided, it becomes courage against injustice. Fear gives uncontrolled. It paralyzes. Guided, it becomes caution and wisdom. Desire gives uncontrolled, it enslaves. Guided, it becomes motivation for excellence. The Stoic doesn't kill emotion, trains it. How does Stoicism help in a modern workplace? Your boss criticizes you unfairly, gives instead of rage you ask, can I control his opinion? No. Can I control my work quality? Yes. A project fails gives instead of despair. You say, did I act with effort and wisdom? If yes, then the outcome is outside my control. Office politics gives Stoicism teaches. Don't play games of flattery and jealousy. Stay honest. In the long run, integrity outlasts manipulation. Stoic employee may not rise fastest, but he rises strongest. Relationships are full of expectations, disappointments, and conflicts. Stoicism offers powerful insights. You cannot control your partner's moods. You can control your patience. You cannot control whether people love you. You can control whether you love with dignity. You cannot control betrayal, but you can control whether bitterness poisons your heart. Marcus Aurelius wrote, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, today I will meet people who are selfish, arrogant, deceitful, but they cannot harm me, for we share the same human nature. If an emperor could remind himself of this daily, so can we. The true test of philosophy is not when things are easy, but when life collapses. Imagine losing your job. A non-Stoic might panic, blame others, or fall into despair. A Stoic pauses and asks, is this within my control? No. The economy isn't. What is in my control? My effort to seek new opportunities, my courage, my attitude. This shift doesn't erase pain, but it prevents despair. Admiral James Stockdale survived 7 years of torture as a prisoner of war using Epictetus' teachings. He said, you must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality. That's Stoicism in action. In today's culture, success is often measured by wealth, fame, and followers. The Stoics disagreed. Seneca, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. Epictetus, freedom is not achieved by satisfying desires, but by eliminating them. True success for a Stoic is living with virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. Ironically, those who focus on virtue often achieve external success too, because people trust them, admire them, and follow them. The Stoics lived in marble cities, not digital worlds. But their advice fits perfectly today. Social media gives stop craving likes. Focus on what you share, not how people react. Constant news gives you cannot control world chaos. Control your consumption. Don't let headlines steal your peace. Consumerism gives Stoicism says, possessions don't equal happiness. Learn to desire less. Imagine a Stoic with a smartphone. He'd use it as a tool, not as a master. Here's how you could practice Stoicism today. Morning reflection ask, what challenges may I face today? How will I respond with patience and courage? Midday pause, take a breath. Am I focusing on what I can control or wasting energy on what I cannot? Evening review write, where did I act with wisdom? Where did I fail? What can I improve tomorrow? Just 10 minutes a day can transform how you handle stress, relationships, and ambition. Stoicism is not about rejecting life. It's about living it fully without being enslaved by fear, anger, or desire. It is the art of becoming unshakable in a world that shakes everyone. It is the power of keeping your inner fortress strong no matter how loud the storms outside. And this is why Stoicism still works, perhaps now more than ever. At the core of Stoic teaching are 4 virtues, pillars of character that guide every decision. Wisdom, Sophia, the ability to distinguish what is good, what is bad, and what is indifferent. For a Stoic, wisdom is not about knowing facts, it's about making choices that align with reason. Courage, Andrea, not just bravery in war, but courage in daily life. Speaking the truth, enduring hardship, resisting temptation. Justice, Dikaiosine, treating others fairly, fulfilling duties, and remembering that we are part of a larger human community. Temperance, Sophrosine, self-control, the power to say enough. In a world of endless consumption, this is revolutionary. Marcus Aurelius wrote, if at some point in your life you should come across anything better than justice, truth, self-control, courage. Embrace it wholeheartedly. But if nothing is better, then don't turn aside. These 4 virtues are like the compass of Stoicism. No matter the storm, they point to the right direction. The Stoics divided life into 3 categories. Good gives virtue, the only true good. Bad gives vice, the only true evil. Indifferent gives everything else: health, wealth, fame, death. But indifferents were not all equal. Some were preferred indifference, like health and friendship, while others were dispreferred, like sickness and poverty. The key idea: these things matter, but they do not define happiness. For example, wealth is useful, but if you lose it, your character remains. Health is valuable, but even in illness, you can be virtuous. This hierarchy is radical in a modern world that chases money and status as if they were the ultimate good. A paradox. Stoics believe the universe is ruled by theta, chain of cause and effect guided by reason logos. Ow. So where is human freedom? They answered. Freedom is not in choosing events, but in choosing our response. Think of life like a dog tied to a moving cart. The cart moves regardless. The dog can resist and be dragged or walk willingly. Fate moves forward. Freedom is walking with it in dignity. Modern psychology calls this responsibility, the ability to respond. We may not control life's script, but we control how we perform it. Stoics often spoke of the sage, the perfectly wise person who lives in full harmony with reason and virtue. But did such a person ever exist? Probably not. Even Marcus Aurelius confessed his failures daily. So why aim at the impossible? Because striving for perfection, if never reached, lifts us higher than settling for mediocrity, as Seneca said. We are not born wise. We become wise by practicing wisdom. Some critics argue Stoicism is flawed. Let's examine their points. Stoics suppress emotions. Misunderstanding. Stoics don't kill emotions. They train them. They distinguish between destructive passions and healthy feelings like joy, love, and compassion. Stoicism makes people passive. Wrong. Stoics did not withdraw from life. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire. Cato resisted tyranny. Epictetus taught students in Rome. Stoicism is about engagement, but without losing inner freedom. It's unrealistic in modern times. In fact, Stoicism's focus on resilience, control, and perspective is exactly what modern therapy teaches: CBT, mindfulness. It's selfish only about inner peace. But justice and duty to others are central Stoic virtues. A true Stoic cannot ignore society. After Rome became Christian, Stoicism deeply influenced early thinkers. Concepts like self-control, humility, and inner freedom blended with Christian teachings. Some even say Paul the Apostle echoes Stoic language in his letters. For example, I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. Philippians 4:11. Though Christianity and Stoicism differ, Stoicism is rational. Christianity is faith-based. The overlap shows Stoicism's wide influence. Surprisingly, Stoicism and Buddhism share many insights despite being born worlds apart. Both teach detachment from desire, both emphasize impermanence, memento mori versus anicca, both focus on inner freedom rather than external possessions. But Stoicism is more active about duty and social responsibility, while Buddhism leans toward inner liberation and compassion for all beings. Together, they offer complementary wisdom. Many modern therapies mirror Stoicism. Cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT) gives developed in the 20th century. It teaches that our thoughts shape emotions. This idea comes directly from Epictetus. Men are disturbed not by things, but by their opinions about them. Mindfulness gives like Stoic reflection. Mindfulness trains us to pause and observe thoughts without being carried away. Resilience training gives used in the military, echoing Stoic practices of hardship training and focus on control. Science confirms Stoic techniques reduce stress, increase focus, and improve well-being. Why do CEOs, generals, and athletes still read Marcus Aurelius? Because Stoicism is the philosophy of responsibility under pressure. Leaders face criticism, gives Stoicism teaches patience. Leaders face uncertainty, gives Stoicism teaches focusing on controllables. Leaders face temptation of power, gives Stoicism teaches justice and humility. Former U.S. President Bill Clinton called Meditations his favorite book. Modern entrepreneurs like Tim Ferriss promote Stoicism as a tool for decision-making. A Stoic leader doesn't chase popularity, they chase truth and duty. Athletes and soldiers often face extreme pressure. Stoicism prepares them. Sports, a tennis player cannot control the crowd, the weather, or even his opponent's skill. He can only control his effort. That's pure Stoicism. Military. U.S. Navy SEALs train with Stoic principles of voluntary discomfort and focus on controllables. Admiral Stockdale survived torture in Vietnam thanks to Stoicism. When the stakes are life and death, Stoicism becomes more than philosophy, it becomes survival. Does Stoicism make life dull? Critics think so. But Stoics argue the opposite. When you stop being enslaved by fear and desire, you experience deeper joy. Not the shallow joy of pleasure, but the steady joy of freedom. Marcus Aurelius, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. For Stoics, happiness is not excitement types tranquility, a calm harbor, not a storm. We've now seen Stoicism not only as an ancient philosophy, but as a living practice. It shapes leaders and soldiers, aligns with modern psychology, withstands criticisms. It connects with other world traditions. Most importantly, it continues to guide anyone who seeks strength, clarity, and freedom in a chaotic world. The Stoics may have lived 2,000 years ago, but their words speak as if they were written yesterday. Because the human heart hasn't changed. We live in a consumer society where happiness is sold like a product. Advertisements scream, buy this car, this phone, this vacation, then you'll be happy. But Stoicism calls this a trap. Epictetus warned, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. In capitalism, status is measured by what you own. In Stoicism, virtue is the measure. Imagine two men. One earns millions, but is restless, always craving more. Another earns modestly, but is calm, grateful, and free from envy. Who is richer? The Stoic answers, the second man. Stoicism doesn't reject wealth, it warns against slavery to it. The ancient Stoics faced gladiators, plagues, and invasions. We face algorithms, notifications, and digital noise. Twitter, outrage, Instagram envy, TikTok distraction, our attention is constantly under attack. Seneca's warning fits perfectly. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. To be Stoic today is to reclaim attention. Practical tip: set Stoic hours with no phone. Journal instead of scrolling. Ask, does this post improve my character? If not, why give it my time? Digital minimalism is modern Stoicism. Politics stirs anger and division. Stoicism teaches, care about justice. But don't be consumed by rage. Marcus Aurelius, while ruling Rome, reminded himself daily, you will meet annoying, selfish, arrogant people today, but they are my brothers. A Stoic citizen votes, debates, and resists injustice, but without hatred, because hatred enslaves the soul. Modern example? Nelson Mandela endured decades of prison without bitterness. His leadership showed Stoic resilience in action. A Stoic accepts that some things are beyond control, but that doesn't mean doing nothing. We can't single-handedly stop global warming. But we can act justly, moderately, and responsibly. Reduce waste, live with temperance, support policies that protect the common good. Stoicism reminds us, we are citizens not just of a city, but of the cosmos. Justice extends to future generations. For the Stoics, reason, logos, governed the universe. Today, machines are learning to think. AI raises fear, job loss, manipulation, even existential risks. How would a Stoic respond? Focus on what you can control, your skills, your adaptability. Don't waste energy fearing the future, prepare for it. Use technology as a tool, not as a master, as Epictetus might say. The computer is not harmful. Only your opinion about it is. Some assume Stoicism means cold detachment. But true Stoicism values relationships deeply. Marcus Aurelius cherished his wife and children. Seneca wrote tender letters to friends. The Stoic view. Love is not about clinging or fearing loss. It is about enjoying fully while present and letting go when time demands. If a loved one dies, the Stoic grieves but remembers. Loss is natural, not an injustice. Love with freedom, that's Stoic affection. How to raise children in a chaotic world. Teach them to control desires. Teach gratitude over entitlement. Teach courage to face hardship. Marcus Aurelius prepared his son Commodus with Stoic lessons, though sadly Commodus abandoned them. Lesson: you cannot control your child's choices, only the values you instill. A Stoic parent focuses on example, not lectures. Modern life glorifies hustle. Burnout is common. Stoicism asks, what is success? If success means fame and wealth, it is unstable. If success means living with virtue, it never fades. Seneca worked in politics under Nero, but reminded himself, life is long if you know how to use it. Practical Stoic career advice: work with integrity, not greed. Don't sacrifice peace for promotions. Remember, your boss controls your salary, not your soul. Here are timeless Stoic practices your viewers can try. Morning reflection. Ask, what kind of person will I be today? What challenges will I face? Evening review, right? What did I do well? What could I improve? Negative visualization, premeditatio malorum. Imagine losing something you value. This builds gratitude and resilience. Voluntary discomfort, take cold showers, eat simple meals, walk instead of driving, train to endure. Control checklist. When upset, pause and ask, is this in my control? If not, release it. View from above, imagine yourself from space. How small is this problem? Perspective brings calm. Admiral James Stockdale. Survived 7 years in a Vietnamese prison camp, thanks to Epictetus. Viktor Frankl. Holocaust survivor, author of Man's Search for Meaning, showed Stoic endurance. Malala Yousafzai, shot for seeking education, yet responded with courage and justice. These figures prove Stoicism is not just theory, it's a way of survival and greatness. The most feared subject, death, was the Stoics' ultimate teacher, Seneca. He who has learned to die has unlearned to be a slave. Death equalizes rich and poor, young and old. To meditate on death is not morbid. It makes life urgent and precious. Memento mori. Remember you must die. Far from depressing, this makes life shine brighter. Stoicism is not escape, it is engagement. It is not coldness. It is clarity. It is not about suppressing life. It is about living fully, freely, and with dignity. In the modern age of consumerism, distraction, politics, and technology, Stoicism remains a compass pointing north. The Stoic asks not, what do I own, but how do I live? Not how long will I live, but how well will I live? And that is why Stoicism still works today, tomorrow, forever. Philosophy is not entertainment, it's training. The Stoics didn't debate in lecture halls for fun. They prepared for storms, wars, exile, and death. As Epictetus said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Power, as Machiavelli revealed, is unstable. Politics, fame, wealth, they rise and collapse like empires. But Stoicism gives something firmer: self-mastery. That's why this final guide will give your audience clear steps to practice daily. So Stoicism becomes muscle memory, not just an idea. Here's a practical 24-hour Stoic plan. Morning, 5 to 10 minutes. Prepare the mind, read a short passage from Marcus Aurelius or Epictetus. Ask, what challenges may come today? How can I respond with virtue? Example thought. Someone may insult me today, but insults cannot harm my soul unless I allow them. Afternoon, mindful action when facing stress, boss yelling, traffic, social media outrage. Pause. Apply the Stoic question, is this under my control? If yes, act wisely. If no, release it. Evening, 10 minutes daily review. Right. What did I do well? What did I fail at? What can I improve tomorrow? End with gratitude. What am I thankful for today? This small discipline reshapes the mind daily. Beyond daily routines, Stoics trained with exercises. Negative visualization, premeditatio malorum. Once a week, imagine losing something you love. Your health, your job, even your life. This is not pessimism. It strengthens gratitude and prepares you for hardship. Voluntary hardship. Sleep on the floor. Fast for a meal. Wear simple clothes. Seneca did this to remind himself. Is this what I feared? It teaches you not to be ruled by comfort. The view from above, imagine rising above earth, seeing cities, countries, oceans. Your problems shrink in cosmic perspective. Stoic silence dedicate one day to speaking only when necessary. This builds self-control over anger and gossip. Machiavelli wrote The Prince for rulers seeking power. But Stoicism trains leaders to use power justly. A Stoic leader values integrity over short-term gain, listens calmly, not with ego, prepares for crisis without panic. Modern CEOs, military generals, and activists have used Stoic ideas. Why? Because in chaos, Stoicism is steadying. Imagine two managers during a crisis. One shouts, blames, panics. The other stays calm, thinks clearly, and guides others. Which one inspires loyalty? It's Stoic power. True freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. It is mastery over desire. A billionaire addicted to approval is a slave. A prisoner who controls his mind is free. James Stockdale, imprisoned for 7 years, lived this truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Power, then, is not external, it is inner sovereignty. Life is a battlefield. The Stoics saw themselves as soldiers of philosophy. Marcus Aurelius fought Germanic tribes while writing meditations at night. Epictetus, born a slave, trained students like warriors of the mind. Seneca counseled emperors while preparing calmly for death. To live stoically is to fight not with swords, but with courage, justice, wisdom, and discipline, the Stoic warrior asks. Did I control my desires? Did I act justly? Did I endure hardship with courage? If yes, he has won the day. Modern happiness is sold as pleasure, comfort, and constant excitement. But the Stoic definition is different. Eudaimonia, flourishing life aligned with virtue. Pleasure fades, virtue endures. You can lose wealth overnight, but wisdom, courage, and justice cannot be stolen. This is why Stoicism produces calm joy, not shallow thrill. It is happiness that cannot be shaken by misfortune. Pain is unavoidable, but suffering is a choice. The Stoics taught pain is an event. Suffering is how you interpret it. Example, breaking a leg is painful. Thinking my life is ruined forever is suffering. By controlling thoughts, you reduce suffering. Viktor Frankl, in Nazi camps, echoed this Stoic truth. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our freedom and power, Machiavelli said. People are selfish, so rulers must manipulate them. Fear is more reliable than love. Power must be maintained, even with cruelty. The Stoics said, people are flawed, but deserve justice. Love is greater than fear, though fear may control temporarily. Power over self is greater than power over others. Which truth do we choose? Perhaps both reveal reality. Machiavelli shows the world's darkness. Stoicism shows how to endure it with light. Remember, your life is short. Your wealth will vanish. Your body will age. Your friends will leave. Your power will fade. But your character, your virtue remains. So choose wisdom over ignorance. Choose courage over fear. Choose justice over selfishness. Choose discipline over chaos. And when death comes, meet it not with trembling, but with calm acceptance, for you have lived as a Stoic. Machiavelli's dark truths remind us of the fragility of power. But Stoicism offers an unshakable fortress, the power within. In a world of chaos, distraction, corruption, and ambition, philosophy is still the strongest weapon. As Marcus Aurelius whispered to himself on the battlefield, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. That is the challenge. That is the invitation, not just to watch this video, but to live it.